Right, okay. My good point is this. Basically, let me think how to say this. All right, here's the best way to say it. Even though everyone else who works in Counter-Strike has to pretend like, oh, this is awesome. I don't have to fuck around, guys. I'm ready for CS2 to begin now. Because, by the way, Katowice is when CS2 begins. I know you all thought it was going on. No. This period now, understand, fittingly was the NIP 87 and 0 period. Because, everyone mentions that. But everyone doesn't know it was only like the first 7-8 months or something. It wasn't even, by the way, there wasn't even loads of the tournaments and players you all think of. Like, if people think of those teams that came along, like Dorsey with Virtus Pro, well, they're the ones who stopped the 87 and 0. If you think about like Pimp and Glaive on Western Wolves, that was like right at the end of the 87 and 0. Like, look, after that, they continued winning on and they were still a great team and they won one of the majors. But that first period, no one really counts. Everyone counts once the majors come, and that's when they think the game is. So for me, IEM Sydney, that would be considered like the fucking 8th biggest event of the year if this was CSGO. That would never be like an enormous event. Keep going. CS2 Asia Championship wouldn't even be considered a relevant top event, by the way. That'd be more like a medium-sized event. Obviously, this gives you away how bad CS2 was. Everyone just went ahead and counted an online tournament to people's like streaks and stuff. That's how you know you're all desperate, because beggars can't be choosers. So you just accepted that an online... some of you even had the goal to actually call it the World Championship because they called it that as well. Like, I never understand what World Championship or an online cup, but okay, you're all just fine with that one at this point in time. And then obviously after that, we just had the 2 blasts, which as Kassad has gone to pains to point out, are banana cups. By the way, random thing for you here, Maui. There are actually people so stupid, they don't know that when Kassad calls blast a banana cup, it's a comment about like he doesn't like the blast structure and it's not big enough event. They think he's just saying any event Huxley wins becomes a banana cup because Huxley and G2 suck or something. It's like one of the things I've always loved about morons is there's that great Bertrand Russell quote that basically says like, you can't trust the report of a stupid man on what an intelligent man said, because a stupid man has to make what the intelligent man said make sense to his mind before he can repeat it, essentially. That's what you find with comments like that. It's just like, mate, this is a travesty, but I didn't say any of that. So I don't know where this went lost in your brain that it came out like that. So yeah, I actually think that's the big thing for me. Is like, I haven't been someone who's dissed CS2 heavily. I've watched the tournaments, I've followed it along, but it never felt like it properly started to me. It's why actually all those first events also, having like top teams having standings, wasn't the end of the world. It did suck at the event. You'd be like, oh, I wanted to see Mouse, I wanted to see Jens, but it didn't even feel that big a deal, guys. And also notice none of us really do want a bunch of people fired because of the first few months of not being that good at CS2. None of us really feel like it counts. So to me, Katowice is the first real event, then we have the major, and then we're going. At that point, we're rolling. And you know what? As much as I actually do hate for history that there wasn't a major last year, by the way, if you have someone like a Ziwu fan, you should be even more mad there's no majors. That would be right in his fucking prime where he could have won the shit and gone back to back. But in a way, I can see from the Valve side, there's a logic to it, which is like the game was way more fucking janky when it first came out. And there is a world where that CS2 major might now be like infamous with all problems and all fucked up results. And I mean, the joke is like, if Complexity had been in the finals, you'd have all wanted fucking CS cancelled, wouldn't you? There's a world. It's JT versus Norbert for the first major of CS2 here, Maui. And we got Maui and Pimp on the mic. Everyone's dream set up for CS2. Welcome to the next turn. It's the way Pimp's. I like the way Pimp's become my new Dust, because Dust's not in the scene anymore. My new whipping boy that I just throw into any equation to make it funnier. Then there's Pimp. He's just in there too, laughing at him, everyone. What do you think, guys? Am I being too harsh? You think these first tournaments count to you? I'm an elitist. I only like the top Counter-Strike to me personally, boys.
I personally think they count because like there is something to be said for being the team that adapts quickest to the new game,
Sure.
Right? So for example, I think it's really cool that Rop's got his props for being that guy who's like a fucking mega nerd about the game.
Sure.
And he will like push it to its limits and find every little edge and advantage that he can. And if you're not like working as hard as him, or you're not just as like intelligent about the game as him, then you're fucked for the first few months. Like that guy is going to know smokes you don't. He's going to know how to play around these new smokes. He's going to know which angles are more favorable now. And I think that's really cool that FaZe and, you know, by extension, Rop's really got their props for that. But I agree with you. Like, it wasn't the scene really, was it? Because like we knew loads of teams were going to be looking for upgrades and changes with CS2 on the horizon. We knew with no major, teams are going to shrug their shoulders and say, well, who gives a fuck? Like, because the major is the most important thing by so far. So yeah, it wasn't proper, was it? Like, it's still an era of Counter-Strike history, and I will still like think fondly upon like Rops and FaZe doing their cool little run. I'll still like think it was cool that Zywoo, like, you know, had a shit first CS2 event and then was like, no, I can play this game.
Sure.
But yeah, it wasn't real super competitive prime era of the scene.
By the way, did you guys see that one the other day that Monacy found on Vertigo? Where he found Maui, he found like a fucking wall bang. That's one of those like insane architecture ones where it really does go through like the whole map through like a sliver like that into a guy like on the other bomb site, like coming up. And it, like, I won't lie, it would be the most insane way to die in the game. But when you see this clip, the first two thoughts I have is, one, who the fuck's ever going to use that in a game? And then two, how are you finding that out? Because that's the first thing I think. Deb's like, how many hours were you in this server? Because like essentially, like it does need to be fixed, but it's like that's not really top priority, is it? Like it's like such an insane angle as well. Like I don't even know how you'd time to shoot it, but it just would technically kill you on the other side of the map. It was a perfect example of what you're talking about, Debs. How these guys go super nerd tunnel vision on that shit.
This is why you don't want a major, because people will find that shit. People will put that shit in their back pockets and wait for the major, and then they'll crack it out in like a, you know, really important game. And that's when, you know, everyone's like, oh my God, like the game's brought into disrepute, CS2 shit. Like,
Shout out Olfmeister.
Big up Olfmeister. Olaf Boost, what a fucking legend. But yeah, you don't want shit like that happening because it just like, it ruins the whole like prestige of the major and stuff. So I think it was a really good idea to not have a major, because Rops or Monacy or someone would have done some absolute bullshit and everyone would have been mad. So I think it was the right idea as well not to have a major for a while.
By the way, in my unending tradition of incredibly incendiary, hot take, contrarian positions, I will to this day maintain I think the Olaf Pass booth was good. It's good for everyone. All right, maybe not LDLC. I'll give you that. I'll give you that aspect. But as I'll always say, and I'll just say this one last detail for anyone who never looked into it. All I'll say is they literally tried to do a similar boost. Theirs just wasn't as good. And so somehow I don't know why that makes Fnatic evil. I've never understood that part. That's the part that everyone leaves out that story, you'll notice. Right, okay. Let's go on then. So obviously, you didn't go and thought it. Okay, go on.
It's just the way that your point coincides with Demps's that everybody's peaking at this exact same time is just kind of like the perfect storm for getting the most competitive version of CS2 in the esports space right now. I mean, I don't really have too much more to add other than that one though.
Okay. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.